Episode 14 of the Trackside Lounge. And the chaps are all sitting comfortably in their chairs. There's biscuits, there's Coke, Coca-Cola, and other things getting ready for us to jump right into it. And first off the bat, I guess we've got to go to Formula One, don't we? That was in Bahrain. It was interesting to see Max Verstappen playing at being a steward, because there they were sitting on the grid and he was pointing to, was it Lando Norris's car was, it's over the white line. He's over the yellow line. You know, they should be doing something about that. That should be a penalty. Here's my question, because he was penalised for it. Here's my question. Surely, when they're on the grid, the people who are looking at this sort of thing should be able to make a call out there and say, hang on a minute, turn your engines off. We got to get the McLaren boys out there. They've got to push your car back.
And by the same token, I mean, they've got so many systems in place, because there've been segments in the past about...
That's true, yeah.
There've been segments about Formula One cars and how you're so low in the car you can't possibly see the white line. So they have spotters, they have entire lighting systems, they've got little LED things that go green when you're where you need to park it.
Yeah.
So how do you still manage to mess that one up? That's a rookie mistake.
How much is a Formula One car worth?
Lots.
How much?
Oh, lots.
Which car? Because honestly, different teams have the different budgets.
Millions of dollars?
Oh yeah, easily.
Yeah. Why can't they afford a reverse gear? I'm just asking. Why?
That one gear is extra weight, mate. That's extra, you know.
Whoever didn't tell him to go back behind the line, he's fired.
And plus, they're parked on the grid.
That's
Just
right.
jump over the fence, push
Yeah.
the bloody thing backwards.
That's right. Put the
Simple
clutch in,
pimple.
Neutral.
Clutch.
Well done.
What do you mean clutch?
One thing I'm very disappointed with Formula One, though, because I can't trust cars going across the line under the checkered flag. I can't trust it. Post-race penalties, it changes things so much. And that's not the first time this season. And I'm starting to get a bit tired of that. And we had a little bit of discussion before about, the reason why. And I get it. I do get it. It's technical. But for crying out loud, they should have that all sorted out. They've got so much practice.
And so much technology.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to see the grid change after the race. I want to see, like Ryan Wood with the Supercars. He's out there, he got a 5-second penalty. He comes into the pits on the last race, so sorts out his 5 seconds. Then we know what comes across the checkered flag is real. I want to see that in F1, any class of motor racing.
Yeah, but you're not going to know how worn the skid plate is until after the race.
I know,
so
but we need to sort that
that's
out.
literally, that
Yep.
defeats that
No,
whole...
changes
Anyway,
need
so
to be
look,
set.
Piastri with a victory, he's happy, and he's already, it must be hard for Lando, because Lando's been in Formula One for, 7 years? I think this is his 7th year in F1. Oscar's been in there for not even half that, and he's already racking up the wins and racking up the poles and doing, very well for himself.
A guy that communicates with his car better, is what is a guy that understands. I mean, Max Verstappen was not very happy. We had a terrible time out of the race. And I'm sure the guys from Red Bull want to hear that.
I love the accent every time.
Well, he's Dutch, I can't actually do a Dutch accent, but it's kind of like, let's go to the Northern Hemisphere and let's go sort of right from England and not French. So that's the sort of accent I'm doing. Just finishing up on Formula One, is it the numbers between 12 and 17 seem to suit Liam Lawson better than any other numbers?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, we're still yet to have a round that he doesn't have some sort of crippling car failure or issue. I mean, Australia with the battery, and then Suzuka with the tyre strategy, which admittedly they made a call. If it worked, they would have been heroes.
Yeah.
And then, now this one with the DRS being disabled or stuck or something. When's he just going to get a clean round?
Yeah, it's going to get a car that works first time.
Absolutely. So
We'll wait on that one.
Watch this space.
he'll get there eventually. We hope. We hope.
Otherwise, he could always come back to Supercars. Supercars were back in Taupo this weekend. Got to say, did it appear to you guys that the crowds weren't quite as big as they were last time?
Well, the Track to Town event looked pretty good. I mean, they always again. This is the first anniversary of the whole Track to Town format, which we talked about. They debuted it at Taupo last year.
Yeah.
And so you see all the drone shots of all the cars parked by the water and by the big Love Taupo sign, and it looks phenomenal. Heaps of people there, but of course they're not the ones paying admission to get into the facility the next day for the racing, aren't they?
But the town to track thing, last year, you guys put up a great video of the cars going through and how entertaining that was, and you did make mention of the guy that joined the queue in his ute, was it?
Yes,
ute?
yeah.
Did a massive burnout, much to the crowd's amazement, and then got pulled up by the cops afterwards. This year, one of the actual drivers lit up the tyres on his race car, and the crowd loved it.
Rate's good.
But also got penalised for it. And I'm just thinking, look, the crowd love it. It's an event. It's got to be a closed road anyway, right? Because of all the vehicles that are. just invite the guy in the ute along every single time. Randomly place him somewhere in there and say to him, buddy, we're going to give you a gap, light the tyres up, and if you can pop them, all the better for you. You know, that's just make a special event of it. Don't keep pinging the poor bugger. Speaking of which, how was the racing in your guys' view?
Yeah, numbers were down significantly on the Friday. Really good session. Weather was perfect. The best thing they put up was the weather. I mean, you know, it was a far cry from 2024. The biggest thing really complaint-wise, I mean, a lot of people complain about price gouging and all that sort of stuff. That's why they didn't go. Last year, the prices from motels and things like that were just through the roof. And I can understand people want to make a lot of money, but the biggest complaint I heard, I don't know about you, Nath, was the track surface. They were saying that there's many different parts of the track surface, 34 different repairs to the track, and some of them are quite significant. They believe this part of the track, they couldn't believe that. The degradation was actually quite up there when they ran the super soft. They ran the soft tyre as well. They said there's a lot more faith, I think, in the soft tyre, although Chaz Mostert came out and said that he actually had a lot more faith in the super soft. So he was a bit, one of the few. But really good track. Like, it was, I think the main thing for me was, a heartwarming story about the JR Trophy going to Matt Payne, and the Penrite car. And I was over the moon for him. I mean, Penrite sponsor Hooncorp, so we'll jump on that little window there.
Penrite, they're wonderful suppliers of oil and all your car stuff.
That's the man with the golden voice. So that was really cool. But I was well impressed with Ryan Wood too. Again, second time I've really been impressed with him at Taupo, and he just likes the facility. And I think, Nick, we talk about the extra 5 horsepower with an RCIS sticker on the side of your car, but I think the extra 10 horsepower for the Kiwi support, because the Kiwi drivers do well. Even Richie Stanaway, really good to see him put in some good results. Didn't get quite where he wanted to be, but watch the space with Richie. Jackson Evans showed some he's a really good camera presence. And of course, Andre Heimgarden was sort of Mr. In between those two. But, it was, and the Kiwis did well, but let's not take away that the last race, I think the race of the day, and I think the driver of the day, and I hate to say this, was Brock Feeney. He started in 20th place. The car was all over the place. It was a gearbox full of neutrals. And then by the end of the race, I think he finished 6th or 7th or 8th. And Brown, wherever he finished, it was right up there, doing a great job. And Red Bull finally got their car sorted out. But it was, I enjoyed the event. I actually stayed and watched it at home. And the Friday crowd was just abysmal.
That was at your place. At your place, the crowd was abysmal.
Yeah, it was a good crowd at my place. Yeah. But no, but that was pretty cool. But one thing that did come up though was the question about those wheels they have on those cars after the contact.
Interlocking is the expression that they use. So from what I got, just looking at the pictures of it, like they got the spokes on the wheels and they kind of bow out a little bit. So when the cars do a bit of rubbins racing, the wheels interlock and cause all sorts of issues.
Yeah, it seems to, and obviously it's an incredibly situational thing. You can't just crash test them by sort of mashing them together and seeing what happens.
Okay, this lap I'll smack into you.
we're gonna do a pre-season testing, and that's going to include a bit of destruction. No, but I mean, how many times have you seen these guys tangle and they put a wheel into the side, and the exhausts as well? The exhausts are very side on the car there. How many times have you seen the exhaust get mangled? And I think it was Taupo last year where Anton's exhaust got bent and sort of deformed in such a way that the exhausts were going straight up the door, ended up scorching all the paint and stickers on the door side. So he just had this big burnt black mark on his car. But as far as the wheels themselves, you have to sort of question whether they were picked for their rigidity or their weight or whatever, or was it?
I heard they were picked for their aesthetic value,
picked for
what
stylistics.
Like.
Okay,
so this was just a style, and this is actually on the Speed Cafe website. If you want to go and check it, they said it was a board decision that they picked the wheel because it looked best.
Bring back the 5 spokes.
Yeah, but it does look good. I've got to say, it does look really good.
Yeah, but
can't deny that.
Mate, the cars are racing along, right?
Yeah.
They're ripping along. Once you get past 30 kilometres an hour, you don't know if it's got 5 spokes or 15 spokes. You just know that it's on the car that's winning.
Can I stop you there?
No, you can stop me there.
I'll stop you there.
I won't believe you.
But if you go to the super slow motion,
here we go.
Anyway,
the thing about it too is that in recent rounds, and again, we talked last week about just how long there is in between Supercars rounds, but in recent rounds, they've almost sort of started to set this precedent of they want to see more door-to-door. They want to see more action. They want to see more aggression. whether or not we end up seeing something of a rivalry. I mean, how long has it been since we've had a decent Ambrose versus Murphy? But if they're going to start wanting that sort of biff and barge, are they going to have to say, well, hey, look, we need stronger wheels? Because they certainly got away with what they got away with at Taupo, but I don't think you'd want much more than that.
That could have been really bad.
That could have been really bad. And
actually.
the second they showed the slow-mo and you see the bit of metal bouncing, of course the cars are still moving, so you don't know that it's a spoke, but we were sort of 95%, someone's missing a spoke.
Yeah, and of course that leaves detritus on the track that is a bit of metal that's just going to slice through your tyre. So you'll be happy with the super softs, but geez, they go down fast.
Now
we've had that actually happen in the past too with supercars, where they you mentioned about the exhaust, and I can't remember from the example, but there was someone who actually came into contact with one of the exhausts of a car last year and ripped out the tyre because it's a sharp metal edge, obviously, and it ripped the sidewall of the tyre. So again, making them aesthetically, they look lovely, but you think about the common sense of it. Try and keep them a little bit further inside the cell or whatever.
Yeah. So speaking about junk on the track, again, we talked about they've resealed the turn 9 to try and save that.
And Mike was saying that that was the big disappointment, was that they did that to try and save it, but the track is still not as good as it could be.
Well, it was still such a rallycross circuit. I mean, turns 3, 4, 5 were pretty much filthy the entire time. Every time a car drove over it, no matter how clean or what they were doing, there was the big rooster tails of dust. Even down at the hairpin, you were seeing cars pulling crap onto the track, and it was just such a consistently off-road. I mean, that sort of stuff never helps with your tyre life.
Yep.
And again, it's like, well, why was it such a rallycross event? Because that was...
On turn 9, though, when on the outer side there by the club rooms, that was supposed to have bollards on the outside of that concrete. That was to dissuade the cars from going any further on that concrete.
Yeah, but come on, let's face it, you see bollards,
but the
you got to
bollards
hit
were gone.
them, right? You got to take them.
They took them away. They were gone. They were gone straight away. And I think the reason for that would have been that, A, they were like the old markers on the side of the road, the flexi thing there, and B, they would have been bolted down into the concrete. Now, that bolt head could go through a tyre, like we saw at Pookie years ago.
That was actually
it's like turn
3. A consideration.
But, so whether they removed it for that and then just smacked the other heads down into it. But it was, I mean, we criticised, I didn't criticise it, I had the criticisms of Taupo with the track surface change, and Mark Scaife must have said it a dozen times about the track surface, blah, blah, blah. But I've got to also, I think we've got to shout out to Taupo, but it's a very professional outfit, these tracks. And during in between the races, they're out there with the air blowers and blowing all that muck off the corners. So every time the next category come out, support class or whoever would come onto the track, it was really good. It was these clowns going across the thing and dragging it back onto the track because they're all going for that, nanosecond of gain.
Speaking of the other classes, standout performances in the other classes, because they were going to have the Toyota Racing Series cars there, and then they were junked in favour of having the V8. What's it? The
Super V8s.
Yeah, Super V8s.
And the Central Muscle cars.
And the Central Muscle cars came out there. And you know what? I think I enjoyed watching them a lot more than I enjoyed the supercars. There's just something about some of those cars, isn't there?
Just look, I thoroughly enjoyed that. I mean, Scott Pye right at the end of it, and that was an 800 horsepower Camry, 730 at the wheels, but 800 chrome.
Camry, was it? I thought it was. No, it wasn't Camry. Yeah, so
ex Super Tourer.
Do you think that's going to be the template for the Supra?
Well, I actually said that to Dad when we were watching. I was like, well, funky that he's doing so well in a Toyota at a time that Toyota's coming into the finger quote the real category.
Yeah.
That was.
I mean, part of a Team 18 sabotage, you reckon? Bit of
they sort of came into the garage. Hey, can we steal your telemetry just for research purposes?
We'll just take this.
That was so good, that class of racing. The Super V8s was anything V8. I mean, Kerry Jones and that what do they call them? The Oscar type car, the sports sedans of years gone by, and I can't remember not Trans Am, but
big Trans Am looking.
And then you had the TA2 cars in there as well. You had anything with a V8 was fair game. In all fairness, it was brilliant to watch. And
was it handicapped?
Because started off as handicapped,
and
then the last race was a scratch race. And Kerry Jones, the 9 times sprint car champion, 9 cars.
Yeah.
The guy just make a lawnmower go fast, and he was doing so well in this. So he won everything. He cleaned up the whole race, going for the clean sweep. I think it was about 2 or 3 laps to go. Lemon engine, just whatever it was, just let go. I actually had to talk to Tanya's his wife, and I said, what's the story of the engine? Sorry about that. It looked really like a really good thing. She said, looks like it's in the top of the engine. Hopefully not too bad, but they'll know when they pull it apart. It wasn't just about those cars, because the other group out there, the Central Muscle cars, these guys have got NASCAR engines in them. I like the old production muscle cars. I love that sort of look. But you can't go away from 7 or 8 or 900 horsepower. And that character we talked about before, Angus Fogg, he was in both classes. And man, he really put on some stupidly serious racing. It was awesome to watch.
Yeah, and I think that sort of sums up the whole thing about it being a great Kiwi love affair with motorsport. It's, I think Supercars is started to become a bit too sterile in terms of all the rules and regulations and bits that fly off. Whereas you look at Central Muscle Cars and the V8 class, there's kind of like, mate, this is the envelope. Whatever you can fit inside the envelope, see if you can do it, and just go crazy for it.
And then while you're doing that, you've got a grid of, how many muscle cars were there? Probably
I think they filled the board 25 plus.
25 plus. Yeah. So you got all these different cars and everything from, take your pick, Camaros, Mustangs, Pontiacs, like you name it, right? So straight away you've got the guys who are gunning for the lead, you've got that mid-pack battle, you've got those guys that are duking it out for 22nd and 23rd, and it's equally entertaining because, like you say, it's big muscle cars, it's stuff you don't normally see, and especially with the crowd in attendance, let's be honest, they don't have the timing ladder there to know who's where and what, so they see battles they like.
And they hear the throb of the V8, and that's what they like. And we just to quickly touch on the crowd, although it wasn't as huge as it would, and this is a quote from Tony Quinn saying, "Crowds were down to be expected. Next year it's up to all of us to bring the crowds back." Now, bringing the crowds back for V8's Supercars racing in New Zealand, proposed next year 2 rounds, not in Taupo, in Ruapuna and at Hampton Downs. Do you think that will bring the crowds back?
Hampton Downs, you reckon?
Well, that's what one of the things being mooted.
Well, TVNZ have already said that Ruapuna's got the deal, and it's it's clickbait because there's no way that Ruapuna's come out and said it. Supercars haven't come out and said it.
No.
The Minister of Tourism said, yes, we'd like to see it happen, but they have not confirmed that it's the case. So I think some of these guys need a swift boot up the backside for crap journalism, to be fair. But as far as Hampton, I don't see the sense in Hampton. I think it's going to be a safety issue. I think they're going to have to blank off the motorway so people don't look, because that would be a dangerous thing.
Of course, yeah.
And parking, and also getting off those two off ramps to attend the facility, and in the other way around, leaving the facility will just absolutely bottleneck that. Common sense to me is that Taupo, the North Island, is the sensible one. Personally, I'd see Manfield. But one of the interesting comments too, I think it was Brad Jones, I can't remember off the top of my head. He said one thing he really liked about Taupo was you can see the whole track. They can see where the car is just about any given part. In fact, pretty much any given part.
And
of the track.
And you can in Ruapuna too.
And you can at Manfield. But Hampton, difference, and it's not about that being the sale of which track they go to. But I don't see Hampton being it. It hasn't got the structure of where people can sit and actually see it. You'd be looking at TV screens of a decent portion of the track. I'm not bagging Hampton. I love driving it. But I think that where they are with Taupo, they've got a good start. I think they need to build on it. They need to make more, and not so damn expensive. And otherwise, we all talked about why they shouldn't go to Queenstown, because it would get too horrendously expensive. And we're talking about people pricing out a weekend away, a couple, and it's going to be $2,000 for the weekend. By the time they paid their tickets, got to the facility, paid their accommodation, food, and a bit of merchandise, without being stupid, $2,000 for a weekend in their own country is just ridiculous. So I think I personally would see Taupo staying, and I honestly hope that Ruapuna gets it.
I think Ruapuna would be great. Although one of the drivers, and I can't remember his name, he said Teretonga would be a great track. He said Teretonga and Levels, although I've been to Levels and I'm thinking it is a cool little track, but I can't see the V8s run around that one. Speaking of Teretonga, though, the George Begg Festival was on at Teretonga with some classic racing cars turning up there. British touring cars were going out there. There were some great old V8s, and Dick Johnson's number 17 Shell Ultra Sierra Cosworth burst into flames.
Oh, well, that's a very interesting. So that was on the weekend.
Yep.
Which I've got to say was a crap weekend for them to have it. It was a fantastic event. I've heard nothing but praise about the event, but crap weekend date-wise to clash with Supercars. Anyway, the weekend before, one of the high-tech guys in Australia, High-Tech Oils championship racing they do over there, in the same sort of thing, the display class there, and there was a gentleman driving a Dick Johnson number 17 replica Ford Falcon in green, and that caught fire too. The fuel tank, or looked like a fuel issue, and then engulf the rear of the car. But smartly, and I'm not sure about the Sierra, but smartly the Falcon guy, he sought the closest marshal point, stopped right beside him, banged the head of the out. But it had done some damage, no doubt. How was the Sierra?
Sierra, a bit badly damaged on the left side, but it's a bit of flame, probably a bit of turbocharger overrun with some. Seems to be fueling issues with the Dick Johnson cars.
Maybe it's old petrol.
Maybe they're running that illegal petrol.
But they were classic old cars. I mean, I have it on very good authority that the Dick Johnson 17 Cosworth Sierra was the fastest Cosworth Sierra that was ever made.
Wow.
Okay.
No, I did see a picture too of Hayden Padden driving a Mondeo on that same
Yes.
weekend.
Yeah, he was driving. That was a British touring car spec one, wasn't it?
Yeah, was that
Super
Paul
Tourer.
Radisic's old one that he won?
And so, silly, but it's the first time I've seen him drive anything that wasn't a Hyundai, which is quite cool. I mean, the Escort on the other weekend with the rally was cool too. So, hey, maybe we're starting to see Hayden Padden with Ford. I'm just saying.
I think all you're seeing is Hayden Padden finding any excuse to get behind the wheel and put the right foot to the floor and see what happens after that.
Do you realise what we've gone and done? I've just clicked now. It's taken me a while because I'm a bit slow. We've just actually started with Formula One and Supercar. We're normally supposed to start at the grassroots and work our way up. We've started at the high level, working our way down. So on that, what about NASCAR? I don't know much about what happened on the NASCAR on the weekend, but I know that our old mate, Mr. Van Gisbergen didn't do too well at a spin or something.
DNF on that one had a spin. Looked like he did, and the previous two races had right-hand front wheel problems, right-hand rear wheel problems in the next race, causing the car to spin. This time, looks like he either got a little love tap from someone, but turned it around to the corner, and that was him, a DNF for that one. And Kyle Larson, my old mate, I got that one. I just want to put that in there because Kyle Larson raced at Western Springs. I've got his autograph, mate.
Yep.
Now, this was another oval.
Yeah.
So the oval curse strikes again.
Yeah.
For poor Giz.
Yeah, he's just got to get used to it, got to get used to that sort of thing. I mean, clearly, when he's turning left, he's just waiting for the back to kick out, the wing to kick in like it does in the sprint car, and then hammer it down. Of course, they don't have the wings on the NASCARs. So it's a learning process. IndyCar, not a good day for the Kiwis. But Kyle Kirkwood won on Monday. Alex Palau was apparently, and this is once again according to the fantastic journalism that you see around, shoulder tap to be lined up for the Cadillac Formula One team in 2026. Although this morning he has come out and said, no one's spoken to me about that. That's definitely not on the cards. Because I would say Chip Ganassi will be going, listen, pal, no, not talking to those Cadillac blokes over there. Just come over here and settle down, will you? And Scott Dixon, this morning I saw this one, Scott Dixon, he came 8th. Has made mention that, and this is a direct quote from the headline, Scott Dixon says he's going to sort out Alex Palau and another driver, Pato O'Ward, when it comes to the big race at Indy. So I went to the story, and there is nothing about that. He just says, with my experience on the track and that sort of thing, I'm looking to make Indy a success this year, and we'll just set the car for it, and we should have the measure of both Pato O'Ward and Alex Palau. He said nothing about taking them out.
Love a bit of sensation.
We need a clicking noise in the background. The old clickbait thing, because that's absolutely what that was.
We love a bit of sensationalism, don't we? So that's always a bit wild. Something else that happened in the automotive motorsport world. Have either of you heard of the McMurtry Spieling?
The McMurtry Spieling sounds like something you do after you've had a big night on the booze. Oh, God, I had a McMurtry Spieling. Oh, God, it was rough.
Sounds like a bad drink at a nightclub, doesn't it?
I understand that it's a hypercar?
It's a, I suppose you'd call it a hypercar. I think they designate them based on their power to weight ratios, whether it's a hypercar or a supercar or whatever other cars they've come up with. But anyway, this is a single seat prototype, and it's developed by McMurtry Automotive. Now, the guy who runs it is David McMurtry, who's an Irish billionaire, older guy who's made his mint, and now he's obviously got a love for cars. So he's basically Tony Quinn if he was 15 years older and Irish.
Yep.
And he's gone and built this. He's gone and built this car. It's a tiny thing.
Yep.
Like, the whole mindset behind building it was to challenge the whole industry trend of cars getting bigger and cars getting heavier.
Yeah.
So this thing is very, very tiny. It only weighs about 1,000 kilos, but it makes 1,000 horsepower. and it's got all the funky aero. Like there's no racing series that would allow it to race, at least today. All the tech you can think of. It's got the fan suction downforce.
Like the old Chaparral. That was in the late 60s in Can-Am racing.
Yep.
You know why that got banned? Because as the fans sucked the car down, they would pick up all the rubbish on the racetrack and fire it out the back to the car that was following them. So that's why I think they only did
pelt the drivers with stones, basically.
Only in 2 races.
See that as a problem. It's an advantage.
So anyway, so this thing's got every single motorsports innovation under the sun, basically, and it's been sort of tiki-touring the world. It's set lap records here and it's set lap records there. It's the fastest car around the old Top Gear test track at the moment.
Yeah.
But the real kicker, and this was the thing that's actually put it really in the history books, it's become the first ever car to drive upside down from a standstill.
Bullshit!
At high speed?
Not at high speed yet, but see, so
it has to be high
speed. The theory has
yeah.
always been, right, how many times have you heard the theory that a Formula One car could race upside down if it had enough aero?
Yeah, there was a famous advert that used Michael Schumacher in the Formula One
tunnel.
Yeah, doing a tunnel. They reckon he could barrel roll through the tunnel.
Yeah. So that sort of thing's been, I guess you could call it science fiction for the last how long, because it's always been theorized, but it's never actually been done.
So they used the tunnel?
So no. So they had this little contraption where they drove the car onto the platform, I guess, and then they flipped it 180 degrees. This is with, I believe it was actually the CEO driving it.
Oh, wow.
Had him all strapped up. They flipped it upside down, and then he drove it forward, and it was only about probably, I don't know, a meter or two. Right. But the fact that it happened...
Hang on. So it was driven onto a platform. The platform was turned upside down, and the car wasn't tethered to the platform at all?
No tethering. No, it was just purely those fans, which they're pretty bunty. They deliver about probably 2,000 kilos of downforce, they reckon.
Holy smokes. So the downforce pushing up... Jesus, okay, this is some maths.
Yeah.
The downforce...
It's sucking to the platform upside down.
Pushing up is more than the weight of the car, so clearly it would stick to whatever's on there. And then he managed to drive it forward.
Drove it forward. And the thing about it is, I mean, if any people who are listening have probably watched the video and, it was the...
I wish I had.
He drove forward like nothing, you can't call that driving on the roof. But the thing about it is, like, we might not necessarily have upside down anti-gravity race series at the moment, but in 50 or 100 years or whatever time frame you want to put on this, it'll all have, it can all sort of get traced back to this particular little stunt, I guess.
Yeah. Wow. And Hot Wheels used to do a stunt where they did full-size versions of their cars, and they actually have a racetrack, and there's a place in Australia that's got the racetrack with a loop on it, and the cars actually go upside down on that loop. How fast do you think they have to go to be able to go through a loop without falling out of the top and having none of those suction fans in there?
120 k's, because you got to get up. It's really high, some of them, and you got to, so 120 k's.
You did that Top Gear Live when that was in the country.
That was only a small. Depends on the size of the loop.
I suppose there's a lot of factors about how big is the loop, how fast is the car, how much aero does the car have. Are we talking wings and slicks, or are we talking a Beetle?
Okay. The actual stunt is performed over less than a kilometre. The car goes a full 360-degree flip on there. Its speed to achieve the loop is 35.9 kilometres an hour.
Is that all?
It's all to do with the size of the loop. The loop is a 66-foot loop, or it's got a radius then of 33, which is about 10 metres. So the car's weight has to travel at a certain speed to get the centripetal force to hold it on the track, and anything above 35 kilometres an hour, it'll stick.
Centripetal force,
which translates to the centrifugal force, which is the energy that's
imparted. I thought you were making up a word. Okay.
Centrifugal is not an actual real force; it's centripetal force. I looked this up on the internet.
Again.
So basically, the speed required to make the loop scales with the size of the loop.
Yeah.
So if you're talking just a tiny little, like you see those motorbikes in the cage of death, and they're all looping around. They're all doing that. So that's not a lot of speed. But then if you had the same sort of cage, but it was 100 times bigger, you'd need
a little bit more pace.
Yeah.
Bit more pace. There you go. Today we learned a little bit about physics and maths. So that's a pretty good place to, I guess, end the show on this one.
I'll stop you there because again we'll go calendar.
We got something on the
We've got a
calendar.
Oh, we've got a good calendar.
Well, just attention, ladies and gentlemen, we've got something for the calendar.
I just want to stop you again twice. Just over a month away is Lemons.
Oh, God,
That's
really?
true.
3 days.
That's true.
So 16, 17, 18th at Hampton Downs. It's a 3-day. And there's actually, if it all happens and don't have too many red flags, we're going to have 24 hours of driving those 3 days. So that's pretty cool. I think
Now,
that's
this is not 24 hours continuous like we have done once because that was a mammoth effort by all the teams involved.
Yeah,
It was
a few times.
Yeah, it was
We
the-
did that a good couple of times.
And a lot of people have asked why we don't do 24 anymore. It's resource consent. Lost the council. The council said no, don't want to upset. I don't know if it's about the prisoners or what. No one really cares. But anyway, don't have that. But it's a month away from the Lemons, so it's a long way down the calendar. I've got a couple of other things. Not sure if you guys have got anything. But on Saturday, this one coming up, it's the Rapinats Burnout Competition in Masterton.
Oh, mate.
Yeah, and there's going to be one of the cars there who's actually a Hooncorp driver. There's Sean Stewart's going to be running in zero tyres and his twin-turbo, LS-powered KP61 Starlet.
How much horse? Jesus, it's
I have
stunning.
no
It'd be more
idea.
torque than power.
Yeah.
I have no
Them
idea.
tyres are not going to last long, are they?
Oh,
They
so
never do.
That's going to be cool. Saturday, Sunday, it's the Mary Dirt Track 2-day nationals.
Yep.
So that's going to be a big one. And it's at the dirt track, obviously $10 to get in to spectate for either of the days, or it's per day. You can't, not for both days. That's pretty cool. Saturday, Sunday, which is the 19th and 20th, just so you know, for April. Motorsport New Zealand Club Sport Champs at Techt Park. Now, do you know what Techt Park is?
No.
Techt Park. I didn't know this either. In fact, Deb Days sent me this detail, so it's cool. Thunder Ridge, which is the new Tauranga track. But it's inside the enclosure. It's like massive.
Nice.
So they've got the new. How about that? Motorsport New Zealand Club Sport Champs over those 2 days. So I'm guessing it's on grass. I don't know. There's no circuit there yet. So that's almost tempting to go down and have a bit of a look, to be fair.
Club Sport
How much gas
Championship.
is in the Fiat Bambino? Anyway, don't interrupt me because I'm still going really well here. On Saturday, it's this is completely nothing to do with anything other than it's from Dad's Army Dive Bombers. It's Casper's 40th birthday.
Oh, mate, Casper.
Old Casper, old Stretch.
Yeah, if you've ever been to a Lemons or want to come to a Lemons, the ones to watch out for, Dad's Army Dive Bombers. Dive Bombers is the operative word for those guys.
And the last one I've got, the last one I've got, just before I lose it, otherwise, because you are the golden voice, I know we're going to close in any second. On Sunday is the Bathurst 6 Hour.
Oh, of course,
At
yeah.
Mount Panorama. And a mate of ours, another ex-Hooncorp driver many years ago, Chris Holt, part of his team there, Prime Sport, I think he is, down there in Australia. He's going to be part of the number 19 BMW M3, and he wanted the shout out there as well, so he's part of a team. He gave me all this big guff about who the sponsors are. I said, I don't care, just the date of the event, and of course we'll shout out to Chris. So hopefully the 19 car does really well.
I got one last thing. It's Bay Park Demolition Derby this
Sunday.
weekend.
Oh,
Saturday,
yes.
And
yes.
above all, over the break, because it is Easter weekend, if you are travelling on the roads, all right, it's not a racetrack. You've been on holiday, you've had some time away, enjoy that part of it and enjoy the sound your car makes. And, you know, everyone has their air conditioning on these days and they isolate themselves. Wind your windows down, let the wind come through, just like we used to in the old days. Don't let the seats get hot because that'll, you know, the plastic will stick to the back of your legs and the seat belts, they get really, really crispy if you're parking in the sun. Just take care on the roads because we want to see you so we can get out and get into motorsport in the right places to do it.